So, like I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted by my dumb, clumsy fingers, I put electrical tape on a lot of things, and 90% chance they don't even need it. But I do it because this is an engine, and it gets hot. And these are plastic components. So you don't want your plastic components melting, your wires fraying, disintegrating. That's a huge, huge problem that goes on. Because on these older vehicles, they didn't use a lot of the stuff that they use now on the new vehicles as far as protecting your hardware. Your sensors and your chips and your connectors for whatever. This right here is the choke. This is a very important part of a carburetor. Without this, you will not probably be able to start this in the code. So you remove that. I already have the fill line disconnected because I checked the fill filter and wanted to see what type of fill was coming through, make sure it wasn't dirty and everything. Then you go up here and you get to clips, which is more airlines, because this thing has not one, not two, 3 compressors plus the regulators for the compressors on the air. Because a lot of people say, hey, it's a carburetor, you don't gotta have that breather top on, blah 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 blah. Yes, the fuck you do, because this thing is strictly, specifically ran on air. If you don't have the proper air that opens up and shuts valves and so on, then your vehicle will not run correctly, because the sensors are not showing what you're supposed to be doing for each other. Because the air is going to be sucking and blowing, and if you don't have the right tubes in the right areas, then you're going to be blowing when you're supposed to be sucking, or vice versa. No pun intended either. So my girl's back there laughing. Ignore her. You know, you want to properly move your clip, and you want to work that off. So, that thing is disgusting. Do you see that in there? Are you kidding me right now? That is really bad. I'm going to have to replace that. That whole piece is going to have to get replaced. Well, that sucks. Well, that's another expense, but you know, this is what you do. You deal with this type of stuff. Just slip that vacuum line off. Like I said, I already took off the fill line, took the fill filter out. Cables are disconnected, cruise control is disconnected, bracket back here is disconnected. So basically you have 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and that's how you take it off. Then you gently twist it so you can make sure you got everything, and you don't. So there's another vacuum line. So instead of pulling it and messing your shit up even more, you want to go ahead and gently rotate it back and forth to loosen it up. Because like I said, this is an older vehicle. It's an 86. And you don't want to mess that up. You want to make sure that you got that correctly. And a lot of times these vacuum lines, they'll rip on you. Fortunately enough, these are very cheap. So if you do rip one, don't panic, it's okay. Just go on to your neighborhood auto parts store, wherever you get your parts from, and bring in the hose, the broken hose, and tell them, I need a vacuum hose this long. And I guarantee you they're going to have it. Alright, let's get these down there. And get that over here. You always want to take your time when you're doing this, because you can miss something. And if you miss something, you can make a mistake, and then you're totally screwed, because you done broke something that is a very valuable part. And the reason why you do these type of videos is so you can remember where everything goes. Before I even started, I took pictures of every single piece of this, just so I can see where everything goes, so I didn't make any mistakes while we're installing it. If I'm confused on a part or whatever, guess what? I'm gonna go back and watch this video, so I'm not guessing. Because guessing is what got me in this position in the first place. Because if I would have went on ahead and went with my first instinct and said, hey, the carburetor's fucked up, I'm just gonna replace the carburetor. But no, I listened to other people and then go with my first instinct and tried all this other shit that didn't work. And now look where I'm at. The carburetor. What I said from the beginning. So, if you got a real good hunch that it's something, you know what? Go for it. Because there's a good possibility that you're right. Don't ignore your instincts. Now, my next issue is, underneath the fill line, you have another hose, which almost looks like it could be a smaller radiator hose, but it's not. What this is this is the under pressure for your carburetor. And you want to loosen it up nice and gently. You don't want to go too crazy with it, because this is a bigger hose here, so it's not going to be as cheap as these little tiny vacuum lines, because this one has a lot more pressure to it. So usually you use a standard screwdriver and you place it in the area about right there, and you just gently work that off. You just gently work it off. Make sure you don't damage any of your other parts, because there's a good chance that your parts work correctly. And it's just your float and your jets that are clogged, so you want to make sure that you get that nice. Get that on out of there.